band Saxon were to make a documentary tomorrow about their legacy, it would have to be classified as pornography, because you would essentially be watching a band get fucked. They've worked their ass off over the years, putting over 20 albums, doing countless tours, playing at Walk-In how many fucking times, done how many commercial appealing albums, and they still only had a little bit of success in the early 80s and then stagnated to holy hell since then. Whether it was the band having a shitty manager, or them not appealing, marketable enough, or their management fucking them over and not promoting them, it didn't matter. Ultimately, this amazing, incredible band that is probably my favorite of the biggest new wave of British heavy metal bands essentially got fucked from day to day to day. But they are not gay. And in today's world, Saxon have been given the Tigers of Pantang treatment. What do I mean by this? It means that no one ever fucking talks about Saxon unless there's some sort of metal documentary where they briefly talk about the new wave of British heavy metal movement, and it's some fucking British guy just naming off every new wave of British heavy metal band that he can think of, just so they can say, hey, we got everybody, and then they just waste everyone's time by talking about Iron Maiden and Def Leppard for the 1000th fucking time. Saxon are legends of heavy metal, legends of new wave of British heavy metal, and have retained that sound even to this day. You could put on the newest Saxon album and say, that's a kick-ass new wave of British heavy metal album. Well, every other band of that caliber kind of sounds a little bit different, or not necessarily like the new album sound. They still have it. And even when they would experiment, they still have the heart and soul of new wave of British heavy metal. Now, the most important member of the band is, of course, the vocalist. A guy with a very, very unique vocal style, making not only him, but the band super unique and stand out amongst the crowd of new wave of British heavy metal singers that all sound the fucking same. Now, he ain't no Rob Halford, and he ain't no Bruce Dickinson, but overall, Saxon's discography, consistency-wise, beats the living shit out of Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Saxon. Well, never mind, they don't beat the shit out of their own band, but Satan, whatever, doesn't matter. Well, maybe Satan stands a chance, but whatever. Everyone else should bow the fuck down to Saxon because they worked their asses off and they're still riding high and sounding younger than ever. And they also still have long-serving guitarist by the name of Paul Quinn. And in their early days, they were joined by other guitarists, Graham Oliver and Steve Dobby Dawson on bass. And they also got a famous drummer by the name of Pete Gill, which would also play in Motorhead for a short while. Their original name was Son of a Bitch, but much like their contemporaries, Motorhead, who also originally wanted to call their band Bastards, yeah, you're not going to get to the top of the pops with a name like Son of a Bitch. Now, before we jump into this discography, I do want to say I actually used to not get into Saxon at all. In fact, a lot of people I know still have no idea where to start with Saxon, or they don't give a flying fuck about Saxon. In fact, I have not found another person that has actually gone through their entire discography and given a shit, because they do have so many fucking albums. Where do you start? So much of it is just like kind of a little bit harder to get into because Biff's voice is so different and whatnot. Where the fuck do you begin? Hopefully this will serve as a guide stone to all of you people out there that do have an interest for getting to this massive band and their discography. But my main advice for you is to probably start from the beginning and then just keep going on and on and on and on, which is what we're going to be doing in this discography review. So might as well strap the fuck in and just listen along with my dumbass. So this is Saxon. Now, although this album is amazing all the way through, I love every fucking song, it's definitely one of my lesser favorites because it just kind of doesn't hold the same weight as the others. It's not as heavy, it's not as anthemic, it's not as rock, and it's not as metal. In fact, although I would still argue kind of new wave of British heavy metal and still rock, and it does have a bit of almost a prog rock, beautiful, pretty sound to songs like Rainbow Theme and Frozen Rainbow, which are like the same fucking song but pointlessly split up into two songs.
Below the valleys, hidden deep beneath the snow, there's a man who guards the secret of the frozen rainbow.
Then you have some other really good rockin' tunes. Big Teaser, which has a great catchy chorus, You have Still Fit to Boogie, which is a nice rocker, Backs to the Wall, kick-ass militia guard. But the two best songs are in the middle of the album. You have Judgment Day, which is balls to the wall, kick-assness, but you do get a rockin' new wave of British heavy metal tune, and that is the rockin' out on a road trip song, Stallions of the Highway.
Picking up ready, I don't give a shit. I got the wind in my hair. You know I don't even care. Stallions of the highway.
Overall, fantastic and very short, not even reaching 30 minutes, but they had better places to go. And they were already getting a bit of a break right off the bat. They went on a supporting tour with Motorhead at the time. I believe it was during the Bomber era. These guys were scared shitless by how big of partiers Motorhead were, but they taught them the ropes, and they showed them what rock and roll lifestyle was, and Saxon survived the test.
They wouldn't drink them. Oh, no, a bit early for me, mate. Except maybe Pete Gill would have had a couple. No, they were tea drinkers, weren't they? A nice cup of tea they liked. They were quite horrified by us ne'er-do-wells. They're obviously going to make it. Because Biff's got a great stage presence and amazing vocals, you know. You could see they all knew what they were doing. I think it was a planned assault, you know. Especially Biff was quite horrified about our excesses, especially Phil Taylor, because, you know, a sexual athlete, you know. And I don't mean the usual sense, I mean pole vaulting, you know, and shinning up ropes and things. Yeah, they was quite straight, they was, you know, it was all the music, you know, which is all very well, you know. You gotta have a laugh as well, don't you? Else it's not worth having the music. And then they went off to the States at the end of that tour to play over there. That pissed me off because we hadn't been to America yet, you know.
And they went on to their next album with Balls and Wheels of Steel.
And I walked over the counter, and this was back in the day when you listened to record in record stores. I don't know, boys and girls, if you have any idea what I'm talking about. So he put a record on, he didn't tell me what it was, and then he sort of pulled the two headphones out of the counter, and I just stood there, and then he put the record in front of me. And I heard this distant sound of a motorcycle, and that came and went across from one, you know, headphone, one side of the headphones to the other, and then it went back again, and all of a sudden this riff came and just absolutely blew my head off. And I was in the middle of Motorcycle Man, the first track on Wheels of Steel, the second Saxon album, and from there it just went, you know. For the next couple of years, Saxon were probably my favorite of all the British bands. One look at the picture on the back of Wheels of Steel, I mean, these looks like the guys that you see down at the pub. I mean, there's no larger than life, and I mean all this, of course, completely respectfully. And that really was what the new wave of British heavy metal was all about in terms of the attitude.
Now this album is definitely metal, and it begins a trilogy of Saxon albums, all of them equally good and all of them held to be the greatest Saxon albums, and I can't agree more. All amazing albums, and they set the precedent for what new wave of British heavy metal should be. In the year 1980 itself, Wheels of Steel comes out, and it's not only influential to the new wave of British heavy metal scene, but our good old balding Danish brother Lars Ulrich of Metallica heard that song Motorcycle Man from the beginning of the album and was instantly blown away and drawn to metal. I believe that he said that this was like the first metal song he heard, and thank God for it, because they pretty much ended up starting the whole thrash scene. But anyways, this album has appeal in every direction. The rockers, the metalers, the people that want some anthems and some ballads and commercial catchy tunes. It has all of it in tasteful amounts. Every song is absolute classic material. making this album maybe the best one of them all. Although we have, of course, a trilogy of albums that are like all equally good. This one really does stand out because it has most of their hits on it. In fact, it went gold in the UK. But anyways, we have other great stuff. Stand Up, Be Counted, classic, Wheels of Steel, a rockin' anthem, yes, Freeway Mad, Speed Metal, Mastery, See the Light Shining, amazing song, and 747 Strangers in the Night. That is showcasing the most commercial aspect of the album, and one of the best songs easily. But another good commercial song here is Susie Hold On, which I love just as much. Now, my favorite songs have to be a tie between two of the later tracks. The two heaviest songs in the album, we're talking about Machine Gun and my personal favorite, Street Fighting Gang.
When I was in school, I was nobody fool. Nothing for me. I was living carefree, staying out all night, learning to fight. I got the nutty. I was tough. I was mean.
But that does it for Wheels of Steel. They can only get better from here. On their next album, they do the same approach, but a little bit heavier with a bit of a crunchier production. And they battered their audience with a strong arm of the law.
My favorite of the first 4 or 5 records was Strong Arm of the Law and Heavy Metal Thunder. It was just an anthem, you know. Throw your heads back.
Lay your heads back, hold your hands out, shoot the body.
You know, the whole thing about it was just an anthem. It was a great song, great lyrics, great vibe. It was like whenever you listened to this song, you were there. You were in the thick of it. You were a part of what was going on, a part of what was happening. It was you and the band, and there was no separation or anything.
Although I said the last one is technically like track to track to track, a best of, so is this. Heavy Metal Thunder, their most awesome ripping song that they've ever made. In fact, I've made it the intro for this retrospective because of it. It's both an anthem and a rocker. To Hell and Back, another great rocker. Strong Arm of the Law, one of their best slow-paced, rockin', catchy anthem songs. Hungry Years, Sixth Form Girls, Taking Your Chances. Awesome songs, and then you get some really interesting shit with the song 20,000 Feet, which is like a total speed metal song. I like that shit. But the most interesting one on the album is the last song, Dallas 1 PM. It's a little bit longer, and this song, Dallas 1 PM, has to do with the assassination of JFK because he was shot and killed in Dallas, Texas at 1 p.m. They just keep progressing this trilogy. What direction do they go with the next one? They would go anthemic, an album that was a tribute to the fans that would wear their metal insignias, denim and leather, and it brought them all together.
Denim and leather, brought us all together. It was you that set the spirit free. Denim and leather, brought us all together. It was you that set the spirit free.
So at this time, Saxon were the leaders of the movement, believe it or not. That's right, Iron Maiden and Def Leppard, all them fuckers were not doing shit yet. Strong Arm and Wheels of Steel, amazingly, both came out in the same year, both slayed. This sold Gold in the UK again, still at the top in 1981, above every other new wave British heavy metal band. Now, they get the fucking Tigers of Pantang treatment and whatnot, but people need to remember the fucking history. Remember that Saxon were at the beginning of 1980, the point where the new wave of British heavy metal was at its most important. They were above Iron Maiden, not the other way around. You better fucking remember that. And they struck gold once again with an anthemic album that delivers you right away with a kind of rocker that also has a melodic chorus, Princess of the Night.
She was the princess of the night. We saw the writing on the wall. She was the princess of the night. I take her right across the sky.
You get more rockers, Never Surrender, and some more weird stuff, Out of Control. It's a weird one. Rough and Ready kicks ass. Play It Loud kicks ass. Easily the best song off the fucking album. Riffs amazing, melodic, and have a bluesy edge. I love the fuck out of And the Band's Played On.
Just before dawn, in the cold night, we came out of the night. Great expectation from the man who ran the show.
That just keeps kicking ass, but then it ends with one of the most important and best tracks off the album, the title track. The anthem to end all anthems. It brought all of us together. All of us metalheads, Denim and Leather. It brought us all together. There's no disputing this. If you dispute this, you belong in a gas chamber. Shut the fuck up and worship this song, you mongoloids. I actually don't hold Saxon as like a trilogy with their best 80s material. I actually hold it as more of like a pentalogy. I think there's two other albums that belong just as good and as important with these three. In fact, let's get to the other two. We have Power and the Glory as the first one.
To the power and the glory, raise your glasses high. To the power and the glory, be with me tonight.
Now, right before this album, we have some issues lineup-wise. Finally, something interesting is happening with the history. Ooh, let's wash our hands for this shit. Pete Gill left the band because he injured his hand. So they replaced him with a guy by the name of Nigel Glocker, and he learned the entire set in a day and a half just before they started doing the tour. And along with the guitarist Paul Quinn and Bill Byford, Glocker is now, to this day, still part of the band.
Actually, when I first joined the band, it was sort of, I was a middle-class southern twit, and then I had this, because of the accent, I guess, it was sort of, they all used to, Graham, Biff and Steve used to sort of act like C-3PO, from Star Wars, sort of, oh, no, that was me,
This album gets a little bit thrown under the bus. I don't know why. Metal Archives has a retarded score for it. Needs to be way fucking higher and held just at the same regard as the other three, because there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, I'd argue it's a little bit heavier and has a lusher sound to it, a lusher, better production. So if you're not a fan of the production of the last three, you'll like the shit out of this one. And this one has another fantastic track listing from beginning to end. It's not like there's a commercial appeal to this one compared to the other three. In fact, the songs are just as classic. So I don't know why this is not considered part of like a quadrilogy or a pentalogy or something, because this album is just as fucking good. Power and the Glory, kick-ass song. Warrior, that song has some of the most awesome lyrics. They came, they saw, they conquered. And then one of my favorite songs in the album is Red Line. I love the chorus to that, where there's, out on the highway and whatnot. It's a total road riding song, love it. And one of the weirdest songs in the album is easily the song that they had a music video for and everything. Is just absolutely bizarre, called Nightmare. It was like they're trying to almost do like a ballad, but not all the way. It's kind of cool.
I was caught in a nightmare. Where were you? Alone in the night. Where were you? I was caught in a nightmare. Where were you? Alone in the night.
You just keep getting more rockers. This Town Knows How to Rock, kicks ass, Midas Touch, kind of sounds like Cold Sweat, Watching the Sky, really catchy, anthemic, love it. But the most interesting song of the entire album is the last one, the Epic, and it is one of their best songs. It is just a slow, crunchy grind the entire time, and it sounds very stonery and atmospheric. I love it. The song's called The Eagle Has Landed. I believe sonically it's about like space travel to the moon or something. That, you know, the eagle has landed on the moon, because it totally has that spacey vibe to it, and I love that. So then around this time, Iron Maiden, Priest, and whatnot, they're passing Saxon. Saxon were doing good, but they were starting to not sell as much. They were selling a good amount of tickets, but album-wise, they're not selling as much. And also around this time, I don't know if it was before or after Crusader, but they were signed on to EMI Records, which you think would have helped them, but actually, they were selling less under EMI, even though they were going more in a commercial direction. It made no sense. EMI totally dropped the ball on them. And they were on like a low-budget label before that, Carrier, and Carrier was doing fantastic music videos all the time, and those albums sold fucking gold. But anyways, we go on to the next album, which I consider to be the last of the pentalogy of classic 80s Saxon albums, but a lot of people would say this begins the decline, a commercial approach, although I heavily fucking argue against that. Let's get into it. Crusader.
Fight the good fight. Believe what's right. Crusader, the Lord of the realm. Fight the good fight. Wherever you might. Crusader, the Lord of the realm.
Now, a lot of people will say the title track kicks ass, but the rest of the album sucks. And you look on Metal Archives and you see a pathetic low score that makes no sense. And then they give the next album that's way more commercial than this one a near perfect score. Are you fucking out of your goddamn minds? First of all, Crusader is objectively much heavier and less cheesy than that album, and it is amazing. It's not even that fucking commercial, especially compared to the last couple. Come on. New wave of British heavy metal always had commercial shit to it. You're telling me that Susie Hold On and 747 and that shit is not commercial at all? Get the fuck over yourself. There's only a couple songs like that on this album. And those songs are Sailing to America, which is totally like the softer song on it, and then Do It All For You is a slower, more ballady song. But they're both really good, and they totally feel like they're on the same lines as like Susie Hold On and stuff like that. No difference here at all. People need to stop their fucking bitching. And there's a lot of ripping songs on here. You have a little bit of What You Fancy, which is a fast rocker. You have Set Me Free, which is a sweet cover, and it is a great cover of the song. They totally sound like it's a Saxon song that's just ripping and rocking. And then Just Let Me Rock, totally a kick-ass, slow, melodic anthem that belongs along the lines of, you know, something like Denim and Leather. It really does. And then more rockers, Rock City, Run For Your Lives, Bad Boys Like to Rock and Roll, another anthemic, kick-ass song. All of these are in the same family. What is there to bitch about? But not everyone is that mentally retarded, and they all at least can admit that the song Crusader is a fantastic fucking song on this album. So kick-ass, slow and rockin', kind of like The Eagle Has Landed, but with a better riff and more anthemic and badass. I say go back and give those other ones a chance, because they really are excellent songs. Who cares? It's soft metal. It's still trad metal, okay? It might be my favorite fucking Saxon album. Go back and re-listen to it. and stop being a fucking retard, because it is the exact same shit as those albums. Let's move on to the next one. I like every Saxon album, but in all honesty, this next one, it's a hard one for me to swallow, although all these idiots are like, it's really, really good and different. But excuse me while I shit on Crusader for being commercial, although this one sounds like a total Def Leppard clone. Now, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with this one. They were like trying to actively scare away with the fans of that album cover. They're like, who the fuck is this girl? Is that a bar of soap? Actually, it's an apple, but it still looks like she's just putting a bar of soap to her face. It looks dumb as fuck. Although everyone tries to scream about Crusader being the beginning of them trying to have a commercial appeal, truly the beginning of that is Innocence Is No Excuse. This is when the musical direction completely shifts and they go commercial. Well, let's get the bad out of the way first. Call of the Wild, horrendous. Terrible, terrible, terrible chorus. Sounds like one of the worst overproduced songs from Hysteria by Def Leppard. And then the worst one has got to be Gonna Shout. That one sounds fucking horrendous. It's so annoying. Biff singing on it. It reminds me of like a really bad 80s Yes song. And that really means something. That's like the most annoying you can be. But we got good shit. It starts right away with the anthemic kick-ass rocker, Rockin' Again. Back on the Streets kicks ass. Devil Rides Out kicks ass. And then the last three songs destroy. But I gotta say the best one on here is easily the song Broken Heroes. And although there's a bunch of Saxon rockers that hate this album, every single fan can admit that Broken Heroes, although it has an AOR tinge to it, is easily not only the best song off the album, but a damn good song. That's why they still play it to this day live. So although the album didn't sell as well, they were selling a shitload of tickets at the time. Probably the best they were ever doing show-wise. Now, I said that they got fucked all the time. Although they're doing good in this little era, they did eventually get fucked by EMI with their shitty promotion on the next one onwards. But there were some tensions in the band. In '86, they fired Steve Dawson, so they had to get a new bass player. But they couldn't find one, so when they went in to go record the next one, Rock the Nations, they just had Biff do bass. So let's talk about the next one, Rock the Nations. Now, everyone bashes this one a hell of a lot more than Innocence Is No Excuse, and I don't get why. I actually think it's way better than that album, and it actively takes a better direction that's more true to Saxon. As opposed to doing like a weird Def Leppard ripoff thing, they decided to kind of be true to themselves again and do an arena rock album. So you have a lot of really kick-ass anthems on this one, but there are a few commercial tunes, but I think they're fucking good, okay? Let's go through the tracks on here. You have, of course, Rock the Nations, We Came Here to Rock. There's some ballads in here, Waiting for the Night, it's a ballad, but it's fucking good, okay? It's fucking good. And then there's some really good rockers like Runnin' Hot. My favorite song off the album, Battle Cry.
Let's talk of a rebellion. The Highlands are aflame. From the mountains to the sea.
There's also two real bad clunkers on here that don't completely ruin this album for being a good one, but they actively try to. We have You Ain't No Angel, which is annoying, and Empty Promises, which is an empty filler hunk of shit. Now, the two most interesting songs in the album are part of the last three songs. You have two songs, both of them featuring one of my favorite musicians of all time, Sir Elton John. on piano. We have Party Till You Puke, which is stupid, but it's a fun, fast-paced, catchy song. I don't give a fuck. It's fun, and it rules. And then the last one, which is a ballady song, but it's really cool because you have Elton John in there, and it kind of feels like an Elton John song. You have Northern Lady. I love this song, okay? So they started having a little bit of issues commercially. EMI was kind of jumping down their throats. They're like, go in a more AOR direction, god damn it! And then they got a bass player by the name of Paul Johnson, and they went in to record the last of the commercial trilogy, probably the most commercial of the three, but believe it or not, probably my favorite of the three, the most AOR-tinged one of them all, Destiny. Now, I almost forgot to mention, right before this album came out, Nigel Glocker ended up leaving for a little bit, and then they got a guy by the name of Nigel Durham. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid off, get this over with. All of you out there that hate this commercial era, I find it terrible. Although I like these three albums, we're going to get this over with quickly, okay? But I do love Destiny. I think a lot of people should give this one a chance. But then again, I'm gay and I like AOR music, right? I don't know what the fuck it is, but this just... it's a perfect mix of like good rock and trad metal and AOR, especially on the opening track, which is not original, but I actually think it's way better than the original. It's a cover of a Christopher Cross song by the name of Ride Like the Wind. Just right away catches your attention for this album, and I love how amazing the chorus is and how great Biff sings in this song.
And I got such a long way to go to make it to the border of Mexico. So I ride like the wind, ride like the wind.
And then it's followed up with the shittiest song on the album, Where the Lightning Strikes. Goes nowhere, but the rest of it is interesting as fuck. SOS kicks ass. Song for Emma's kind of cheesy, but I love the shit out of For Whom the Bell Tolls kicks ass, and no, it's not a Metallica song. Jericho Siren kicks ass, and then probably the most ass-kicking song off the whole thing, Red Alert, the last song. Total trad metal, little to no AOR. But you do have your commercially tinged bullshit on here. We Are Strong is very much a commercial anthem, but I like it, okay? Sue me. And then you have the most cheesy song on here, which has the absolute most pathetic music video that is only comparable to Rush music videos for the song I Can't Wait Anymore. I mean, just look at that shit. They superimpose themselves horrifically over the worst stage drawings I've ever seen over top of a massive audience, which can only be a Bon Jovi show. There's no fucking way that was Saxon at this time. They were beginning to struggle, and it's really pathetic. They're making themselves look like they're big rockers and shit, when it's so obvious that they had to superimpose themselves over a big show. So that's it. Because they decided to jump on that commercial bandwagon and EMI didn't even help them while doing it, they dropped the ball and they dropped Saxon. So Saxon was like, fuck you and your ball. We're going to have our own ball, and it's going to be a solid ball, and it's going to be filled with fucking rock.
I think more than any other band over the last 10 years, we've tried to experiment a little bit more. But we have stayed sort of true to what we originally set out being, although we've come in for a lot of flack because of that.
So they need to make a big statement with Solid Ball of Rock. They wanted to get heavy again, but they needed some help. So they got Nigel Glocker back on drums, and they got a new bass player by the name of Nibs Carter, which would stay in the band until this day. Another permanent, amazing member. And this album is a heavy kick-ass album, although some people might still have issues with it because, it kind of sounds like, it kind of has what I would call the Appetite for Destruction tone, where it sounds a little bit hair metal, but like kind of produced and heavy sounding. But you know what? It's still technically trad metal. It still kicks ass. It's just the production. Get the fuck over the production, okay? The music is awesome. Solid Ball of Rock kicks ass. Altar of the Gods kicks ass. Requiem is probably one of the most commercial songs in here, but it's a rocker, it's an anthem, and it kicks some fucking ass. But you get a pretty shitty song on here with the song Lights in the Sky. I really don't like that one. Although it's a rocker, although it's metal, it's annoying as fuck, and I don't like it. You have so many awesome kick-ass metal tunes on here, though. I just can't get enough. Ain't Gonna Take It, I'm on Fire, Crash Drive, so many good kick-ass songs. But my favorite has to be the song Baptism of Fire.
Welcome to the
You'll notice if you look at the writing credits for a lot of these songs that a lot of them are actually co-written or written by their new bass player. And the band actually cites him for helping the rest of the band get back in a new metal direction and finding where the fuck they're going to go, because EMI dropped their ass. CBH, Virgin picked up their ass. They didn't know what the fuck to do. It's the beginning of the 90s. The 90s suck and they tried to kill metal. So they were able to survive because of this bass player and became awesome again. In fact, I'd say that Saxon in the 90s is really consistent and kick-ass. So let's keep going, bitch, because we're just going to keep getting some good fucking albums from this point on. Forever Free, let's do it. Forever Free, another kick-ass rockin' album. I'd say it's better than Solid Ball of Rock, and it even does a little bit different things on here. But what I really like about this album is that the rockin' songs on here, and production-wise and guitar tone-wise, it sounds a hell of a lot like the early trilogy that everyone worships. So if you like that sound, you will really like this album. And some people might get kind of pissed because you have a cover of Just Want to Make Love to You by Willie Dixon, and you have Get Down and Dirty, which are kind of provocative songs, but they totally fit with Saxon sound. It doesn't sound stupid. It actually works. They have some nice bluesy rock and traditional metal tones to them for sure. But the most interesting song of the whole thing is a song that's a slower, bluesy, more methodical song by the name of Iron Wheels.
Just like the iron wheels that took him down.
And it just keeps going and kicking and kicking and kicking your ass. Cloud 9 kicks ass. Can't Stop Rockin' kicks ass. My favorite fucking song on the album gets caught in my head all the goddamn time. Midnight Creeping Night Hunter.
Midnight creeping shadows. Night hunter. Midnight creeping shadows. Night hunter.
Sadly, though, like Solid Ball of Rock, it is equipped with one lone track to try to ruin the rest of it. And that is the song Grind. Biff sings annoying as fuck on it. And it's a slow bluesy song, so it makes it burn your ears even more. Really pisses me off because this album is just so close to being perfect once again. But they'll give it another try on the next one, which is another step over this one. a classic by the name of Dogs of War.
Dogs of war, no surrender. Dogs of war, kill the defender. Dogs of war, screaming surrender. Dogs of war, it's the day of the jackal.
The production of this one is more crunchier, and it sounds like they're almost fully returned to that old traditional new wave of British heavy metal sound. You have so many classic songs in this one, though. Dogs of War, Burning Wheels, kick-ass stuff, Big Twin Roll and Demolition Alley, such good shit, and they play Dogs of War all the fucking time, and it's a great, great song that's a little bit different. And speaking of different, you have some more melodic songs on here for sure that are different from stuff they've done before, like Hold On and Don't Worry, which is really weird. The chorus of that has like almost like a country vibe to it.
Take me down to the cool, clear water. Don't worry about me. I take my time. I stay a while. Don't have to worry about a thing. Don't you know?
And then you have a really weird song that took me a long time to get, but now I do love The Great White Buffalo. It's easily the weirdest song on the whole thing. And another weird song, but this one I actually don't like. It has a good verse riff, but the chorus just ruins it for me. That's Walking Through Tokyo. I don't like it.
Walking through Tokyo. Visions of the samurai.
And then my favorite song has got to be the last one. And it starts a tradition where like almost every last song on the albums is like the most kick-ass, catchy, and rockin' song. This one is Yesterday's Gone. They're nearing perfection, almost getting there, getting better and better and better and better. But before they would nail perfection once again and start a seemingly endless barrage of albums that are perfect from beginning to end, just like the quadrilogy or the pentalogy, I feel, in the early days, they would have hell of a lot more than that. Almost endless albums of perfection. But before they would do that, they would need to have a lineup change. Graham Oliver had to get his ass kicked to the curb by Biff because Biff was pissed at him because he was trying to sell like weird old bootleg stuff that, you know, was kind of illegal to sell that. You're supposed to sell official merch, so I would be pissed too. So I think it was kind of justified. But then Graham got super pissy about that and pretty much united with their old bass player, Steve Dawson, and they're sitting there sulking in their saltiness and actually tried to make their own band by the name of Saxon. But the good news is that they got another member that would be there to the current day, Doug Scarrett, starting with 1997's amazing Unleash the Beast. Unleash the Beast, the beginning of a new world for Saxon. This one was recorded in Germany, and speaking of Germany, Saxon has a loving relationship with Germany and its people, because around this time, they were starting to get a huge buzz in like Germany and Switzerland and areas around there. In fact, in the early 2000s, which we'll get to in a little bit here, they started doing like yearly shows at Wacken Open Air in Germany, and they became pretty much a staple of that show. So at least Saxon was popular fucking somewhere. They deserved the recognition. What they need is huge popularity in England, the US, and South America like Iron Maiden, because they're better than Iron fucking Maiden. But anyways, Unleash the Beast, heavy as fuck and catchy as all hell. I mean, come on, the title track alone destroys Terminal Velocity, destroys Circle of the Light, destroys the Thin Red Line. It's like the epics on the album. And it kicks ass. It's a slow, crunchy, kick-ass song. One of my favorites by far.
Remember the heroes when stories are told. They died in the thin red line. In the thin red line.
You have some more relentless cutthroat tracks like Bloodletter, but you also have some more laid-back rockers like Terminal Velocity, which I mentioned before in The Preacher, and super laid-back, which is the ballad on the album, Absent Friends. And as Biff would say in the song, to absent friends, this one's for you. This one is about friends of Biff's that died, and it's truly a beautiful, really special song that I can really get behind. But the best song by far on the album, once again being the last song on the album, Riff City, with an amazing goddamn chorus that just gets stuck in your head. All hell's breaking loose. Now, although I said Nigel Glocker would be there until the current day, he did leave for a little while in the band's history. Nigel had to take off drum duties because he had a neck and shoulder injury, and it was temporarily replaced by Fritz Randau. And in 1999, they went to the studio to record another amazing kick-ass album, Follow Up to Unleash the Beast, building up off that success and getting even better. But they would go in kind of a different direction with this one. This one, they went a little bit slower, but sonically and musically, fucking heavier. Heavy as fuck. The heaviest album they've ever done. If you think that this band is not heavy enough for you, put on Metalhead and it'll blow away your fucking mind.
Talking to the new album, it looks like this. It's called Metalheads. I've got 5 copies to give away. So if you'd like to get hold of a copy of this, and we can get this one signed, and if we've got the other ones, we'll get them signed as well. Hold it still, okay. Sorry, I'm shaking because it's so heavy.
It is, yeah.
It's very heavy.
And like I mentioned earlier, they were falling in love with Germany, so they actually signed over to SPV Steamhammer Records to produce a lot of their albums. Now, my only complaint is that because some of these songs are so heavy and a lot of them are more slow-paced, it makes it not as, catchy or as rockin' as Unleash the Beast, but it doesn't matter because it's trying something different because that makes it sound unique. And one of my absolute favorites, maybe even my personal favorite, it is the first album I heard from the band, after all, and the first song I ever heard from them. Because I was looking for Judas Priest, All Guns Blazing, I stumbled upon a song that I think is actually maybe even better than Judas Priest's All Guns Blazing. The song, the same name, All Guns Blazing. One of the only few fast songs off the album, and truly a statement of raw demolishment. We have another fast song, Conquistador, but the rest of it is slow, brooding badassery. Metalhead, Are We Travelers in Time, Song of Evil, which sounds a lot like something off Judas Priest's Angel of Retribution. And one of my favorite songs off the album, a slow, chunky number that has a really awesome chorus, but a weird theme and song title. This one's about, flipping someone the bird, essentially, telling them to fuck off, but this one's called Piss Off.
Take it slow, don't go fast. Looking good, never last. Different day, same old song. And somebody drops you a piss off bomb.
We have one more interesting song to talk about. We have an epic at the end of the album that seems almost stylistically different than all the rest of the album. That's all super heavy and shit. This one's a little bit more toned back, a little bit more serious and methodical, and I really, really like that. That Sea of Life ends the album perfectly. Like I said, to those of you that hold the heaviest albums as the best, like you want the band's Painkiller album, although it's not like a fast Painkiller, you sure as hell get a heavy Painkiller with Metalhead. So with the next one, they're going to be heavy and faster, and also getting some of the catchy songwriting back, but also some experimentation with the Killing Ground.
We are brothers in arms, we fight for the cause. Together we stand, divided we
one is laced with incredible heavy, almost thrashy numbers like Killing Ground, the title track, and my favorite song on the album, Dragon's Lair. I love that shit. Speedy, kick-ass verse, incredibly catchy chorus.
Over the mountains, across the sea, we follow the legend into the dragon's lair.
And then you have them trying some new stuff, especially with a cover song, which is one of my favorite cover songs ever, of King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King. Why is it one of my favorite cover songs ever? Well, I hate King Crimson, but I adore this cover. They make it so much more serious and actually make it more progressive than the original. They actually make it heavier in certain sections where there was otherwise just the same tone going on and on and on. They add more changes and they actually have some cool riffy moments towards the end of the song. I just love their interpretation of this, and I think Biff sings it a hell of a lot better.
The Black Queen chants the funeral march. The cracked brass bells will ring to summon back the fire witch to the court of the Crimson King.
They have them doing some cool, interesting stuff on Running for the Border. Biff kind of sounds weird on that one. You don't know what you've got. They're doing some awesome experimentation. But the truly most interesting weird song on here, and maybe the best song off here, the epic, Shadows on the Wall, which is about the Hiroshima Nagasaki nuclear blasts. The album, of course, ends with a great rockin' number, Rock Is Our Life, and ends another flawless, front to back, top to bottom, motherfucking killing spree. Now, during this time, Graham Oliver and Steve Dawson not only had their own band with the same name, Saxon, but they got the attention of the real Saxon when they registered the band's name as a trademark for themselves. This pissed off Biff, so he went into the trademark registry and registered his Saxon as trademarked as well, just to essentially piss them off and stunt their trademark of making money off Saxon. So they had to go to the courts, and the high courts declared that Biff Byford's Saxon was the real Saxon for sure. Obviously, bands need to stop with this whole "we want our band to be Saxon" bullshit. Now, the band were gearing up to do another album, but Fritz Randall left his drumming duties, so they decided to get the Stradivarius drummer Jorg Michael on drums. And he does a decent job, but he's only on one album. But they go on to produce one of my favorite Saxon albums. They just keep getting better and better and better. And this one is the same tone as the last one, but even more epic. Lionheart.
Tell me your secrets, bring them to me. Give your confession, your soul will be free. There's no escape from the burning fire. You rue the day that you sent for the witch-finder general. Witch-finder general.
Top to bottom, classic once again, but even more diversity. Witchfinder General is like the same type of shit you were getting on the last albums. Catchy, kick-ass song that was perfect for a single. Yeah, Man and Machine, great shit. And then my favorite song on the album is the title track, of course, Lionheart. So fucking epic. It's slow-paced, but just the chorus and the way it's produced, it just sounds so magical. The song English Man o' War is a great rocker. To Live by the Sword is like thrashy madness. And I love the song Justice. It's super catchy. Biff sings amazing on it. And it's really different. I like that.
Do you stand for freedom? Do you stand for justice? Do you
I would just like to quickly take note that Biff during this time period for like maybe the mid-90s onwards to this point, especially on this album, I like that singing a little bit more than his more higher singing on the first bunch of albums. I know that's sacrilege, but to me it just sounds more epic, and to me that's what Biff is. He kind of sounds a bit more like a Euro power vocalist during this era. And, you know, I hate Euro power, but I do like those Euro power vocalists. And he sounds, I think, probably at his best on this album. Now, interestingly, on the tour for Lionheart, they were supposed to do a show with Megadeth in Dubai, but at the last minute, the people that were running the show had actually withdrawn Saxon from playing. And it's rumored that it has to do with the classic song Crusader. They thought it'd piss people off, but come on, who fucking cares? Now, in 2007, shit gets really interesting for the band. The band was part of an episode of Harvey Goldsmith's Get Your Act Together, which is pretty much a program where he tries to refine people or a group of people to do their best. Almost like Extreme Makeover, Grimy Cunt Edition. And the whole point of the episode is he wants to help the band promote themselves and get themselves out there and be as popular as they used to be in the UK. And you know what? All these fucking morons on the YouTube video for it are sitting there saying, Saxon doesn't deserve this, and blah, 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 blah. But you know what? Give the fucking guy credit, because after that, Saxon was becoming a hell of a lot more successful again. There's still no fucking Iron Maiden. They should fucking be Iron Maiden, and Harvey even says that, and I agree with him. They should be, and these fans deep down know that too, but they're just going to sit there and bitch because he tried helping them and tried saying no to Biff, that, oh, he's an asshole and blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up. I'm grateful, and you all should be grateful, that Harvey gave a shit enough to put not only his focus, but the focus of his entire program and people all around England to watch his show to promote this band. And then he went and busted his fucking ass promoting the band and pretty much taught Biff how to promote the band and everything. And it turned out that they had a shitty manager at the time, so he got them a way better fucking manager that has since helped them score gigs all the time. And now they're doing a hell of a lot better for themselves. But there was one issue where they tried to do this weird promotional thing where they went to like a, as they call it over there, football, but over in the real world we call it soccer show. They had this halftime little presentation thing to try to have the world's longest air guitar thing or something. So the band members went out there with like the mascot, and they all looked really goofy and shitty, and then the whole audience booed. It was pretty embarrassing but hilarious.
After 3 minutes, Harvey pulls the band off the pitch. The stunt has not gone as planned.
That was the worst 3 minutes I've ever fucking spent in my life.
But in the end, he helped guide the band to have more commerciality in a good way and appeal to youth and try to gain a new fan base. And he was right, and he did help them gain more fans. And the next album, the Inner Sanctum, although it didn't sell amazingly, ended up selling a hell of a lot better because of that. Let's talk about the Inner Sanctum, probably the best album of the modern age of Saxon. Now, Saxon weren't just absolutely going uphill with this amazing material, but I do absolutely cite Harvey Goldsmith for helping them find the balls to try some new things on this album and making it sound extremely fresh and amazing in every single way. Every single way. State of Grace kicks ass. Need for Speed kicks ass. Let Me Feel Your Power, thrashy as fuck. Red Star Falling, super different. I love this song. Sounds really methodical, really dark. Love every second of it. I Gotta Rock to Stay Alive, classic catchy shit. Going Nowhere Fast, classic catchy shit. If I Was You, the song that Harvey really hammered on them to try to turn that into a good single that's apparently about gun violence in the UK. Ashes to Ashes, great, different shit, different, emphasis on different. And the best song on the album is probably the last one, which is total Saxon kick-ass trad metalery, a song that which is about the barbarian madman Attila the Hun.
To the deserts of the sun, in temples of mighty Rome, to the land of the earth and the stone.
And to make matters even better, our good old bloke Nigel Glocker has finally come back from the dead, now solidifying the lineup to the current day. Now the outlook they took with this one was to mix some of the good old bluesy stuff that they were doing before, some of the stuff that you could tell Paul Quinn is totally into, the bluesy rock and catchy shit, but mix it with some different stuff, like some speed metal once again, but also some Euro power. Now look, I fucking hate Euro power. I suck the dick that is US power metal because it's really not the same thing at all. There's no keyboards or anything. But I will say, when Euro power is done good, I fucking love it. I like stuff like Hammerfall and Halloween and whatnot. But when it's like overproduced and overdone, I fucking hate it. But you know what? Saxon, although they tried something different, they were smart enough to not overdo it. And on this album, the songs that are power metal are extremely tasteful and extremely kick fucking ass. Battalions of Steel kicks fucking ass in every way. Completely different, completely anthemic, and blows your fucking mind. Valley of the Kings does the same damn thing. Amazing stuff, amazing stuff. Couple other songs I hear that do that, but for the most part, it's a rock and bluesy album because they're returning to their roots, which they'll do a hell of a lot more in the next one, but still, you have Live to Rock, nice, catchy, awesome tune, slow lane blues. I mean, come on, it's the bluesy song on the album. Protect Yourselves, which is really kick-ass and slow. You also have a cool song called Hellcat, which is a fast speed metal number. And one of my favorite songs of the album is the really badass Demon Sweeney Todd. You also have some awesome rock and anthems on here, like Live to Rock, and my favorite of the anthem songs in here, Come Rock of Ages, The Circle is Complete. The last song I'll talk about is really interesting on here. It's actually a re-recording and a redo of the song Coming Home off Killing Ground, but this time they actually do, in my opinion, a little bit better, more interesting, and completely different. What they do is they do like a completely acoustic bluesy version of it, called the Coming Home Bottleneck version. I don't know why it's called Bottleneck. Maybe you cunts in the comments can explain it to me, but I sure dig the hell out of it.
I'm long, long gone down that lonely road, but it won't be long until I'm coming home, yeah.
Perfection Train will just continue with the next one, Call to Arms.
We march towards the sound of distant guns. White fire lighting up the sky. We came to fight and die in fields of blood. We follow the call to arms.
Now this one doubles down on that bluesy, catchy approach, kind of going back to the roots, but my main issues are the production, which they signed on to a different label around this time. I think they went back to EMI, and the production just sounds kind of ear rapey and really, really bizarre. I don't know what's up with it. And the Biff's voice sounds kind of weird. And a lot of this album was slow, so it almost kind of sounds like you could hear their age on this album, which is their only album that I can hear their age on. But, I mean, it doesn't help. But I still think musically, every song on this is a fucking smash hit. And I think it's actually a step up over Into the Labyrinth. In fact, they were really kicking ass with this shit. It went number 6 on the UK rock charts. So let's talk about the songs. It starts with a really weird one where Biff kind of sounds old on it. Hammer of the Gods, but it's a great song. Back in '79, great song. Surviving Against the Odds, amazing song. And then in Mists of Avalon, they're really trying some new, different shit. Really atmospheric and cool. And one of the most interesting songs in here is, of course, the title track, Called to Arms. Although I gotta admit, it's probably my least favorite track of the album, only because I much prefer the orchestral version, which actually comes on all versions too. So I don't know why they didn't just elect to go with the orchestral version, because it is so much better. The chorus is so epic and badass. I mean, there's amazing songs in here. When Doomsday Comes, Doris of the Wicked, Ballad of the Working Man, so many good stuff. But to me, the 3 best songs are in a row. If you have Call to the Arms orchestral version, easily one of the best songs. And then the best of the bluesy songs, where Biff actually sounds really amazing on it. Chasing the Bullet, one of their best rock and bluesy anthems.
Chasing the bullet. Chasing the bullet.
And then you have a rare moment on the album, because it's a bluesier, more catchy album. You have a fast, thrashy song, and this one makes up for it because it is absolute bananas. It sounds like later thrashy Motorhead. This is Afterburner. Around this time, the band had actually released a documentary movie about themselves called Heavy Metal Thunder, which is awesome. You guys should check it out. But they also released another fucking album. Just another one. They just keep killing it. This one, though, better produced, and they don't sound old. They sound young again. They sound fast again on Sacrifice.
Blood on stone, holy breeze, no escape, no release. Sacrifice, sacrifice.
On this album, they got the famous metal producer, or should I say metal overproducer. A lot of people think he makes his albums too loud and overproduced. Andy Sneap. Boy, they sound faster and better on this one, but I gotta say, song-wise, I don't think it's as good as Call to Arms, but it might be as good. I'd really have to think about it. It definitely sounds better, like I said. It's definitely faster, but not as memorable. Not as memorable. That's kind of how I feel. But you also get some more cool bluesy numbers on here. Walking the Steel and Standing in a Queue. I always loved that song, Standing in a Queue. I love on the chorus, it just kind of sounds like you're just waiting in a line, but it's almost like it's relatable. Like it's kind of, you can like that shit. I don't know what the fuck it is about it. There's of course other really good ones like Made in Belfast, Guardians of the Tomb. My favorite of the fast ones probably being Stand Up and Fight. I love that song. It's just so anthemic and rocking.
You gotta fight for all that you believe in. You gotta fight. It's you against the wall. Stand up and fight. Stand up and fight.
My favorite song though, it's probably Standing in a Queue. That shit is just so bluesy and rock, and I love that shit.
I'm standing in a queue. I don't know what to do. I haven't got a clue why I'm standing in a queue.
Let's move on to the next one.
About your new album, Battering Ram.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like a title of a porn film.
Well, it's a masterpiece. To answer your question,
All right.
which isn't answering your question at all.
Like a battering ram. Like a battering ram.
Oh, but you guys were so close. You guys had a fucking roll. You were on a roll. You had a train. But the train had to hit the brakes on Battering Ram. The saddest thing about this album is that it has so much potential to be better than even Call to Arms. It has some damn good fucking songs in here. But there's like not even one but two songs that are kind of, for me, not as good. It's just sad. We'll get the shit over with, shall we? Hard and Fast has a good verse riff, but the chorus just does not do it for me. And then the last song, Kingdom of the Cross, it's really cool and unique, but it's weird for an album closer, and it kind of almost goes nowhere, but it's definitely different and cool, and I'll respect that.
Across the Somme and Flanders lay a generation gone, came to fight the war of wars, the father and the son.
But then you have some amazing songs: Battering Ram, The Devil's Footprint, Queen of Hearts, Destroyer, Eye of the Storm, and my absolute favorite, the more underrated track, Top of the World, which has a fantastic chorus. Well, let's see what they can do with the next one. Can they make another fucking amazing front-to-back album?
You have outhouses here in
We have what?
England. Outhouse. It's a toilet outside of a house. Back in the day, in Australia, they used to call it the Thunderbox. That was the toilet. Thunderbox, that could be the box set. Thunderbox for the Thunderbolt box set. Thunderbox.
Actually, it's about the Greek gods, but outside toilet will do. I like that.
For Thunderbolt, this final Saxon album, we're going to do something a bit different here. As you can see, this whole episode was mostly audio with visual content of the band and stuff like that. But you could see me and another guy here visually, and we're going to review this final album from them. Now, this man is very, very important when it comes to the album reviewing community. He is pushing the boundaries, and he is putting actual effort in editing and promotion, something that most people don't do. Jimmy K from The Metal Voice. How you doing, Jimmy?
Good, Brody. How you doing, man?
Awesome.
Hey, I'm very excited. Let's talk about Thunderbolt.
One last thing I gotta say. The reason I brought him on here, also, not just to promote his fantastic channel, but also because him and his buddy Alan, that does the cooperative episodes on their channel when they review albums, they actually were the guys that got me into Saxon. They always do episodes on Saxon, interviews, album reviews, and they're always praising them to the high heavens, even their new material, which is very rare for a band where their new material is fantastic, and they are always saying how great they were. But it took me years to get them, and I always had in the back of my mind, these guys really, really see something here that I'm not seeing yet, and I realized that they were right.
7-8 years ago, we started the channel, The Metal Voice, and the reason, well, actually, Alan had his reason, I had my reason. Alan's reason was he wants to sort of share his knowledge and his wealth of knowledge with, younger metalheads, right? My reason was a little bit different. Mine was, how come bands like Saxon and like Accept, how come they don't get, played on the radio or interviews on the radio? And we're going back 7-8 years ago now. Why don't these, two examples, Accept and Saxon, why are they getting lost in the shuffle? The internet was sort of like the Wild West 7-8 years ago. TV, you never see any metal bands. Radio, you rarely hear any metal bands. So my whole goal was, let's start a channel where we can sort of promote and help those bands that are, have a huge history, a legendary history. Let's help these bands get exposure. And hence, now we are today with Thunderbolt.
What did you think of the album on first listen?
Oh, my first listen, I would say I was kind of again, a first raw listen. I was a little bit disappointed on my first listen. I go, oh man, this sounds kind of too similar and too generic. But I think after the third, fourth, and fifth listen, I really started getting into the album, and I thought, wow, this is a great effort by these guys.
I actually had a completely different
like the complete opposite of that. Well, when it came to the song Thunderbolt, which was the first single, pretty much the opening track after the Olympus Rising intro.
Yeah.
Which I gotta say, real quickly, I'm getting sick of these stupid blank rising songs like Judas Rise. It just, I don't know. It sounds cringy to me. But anyways, that's unimportant. Thunderbolt, it's a great song, but at first I thought it was generic. In fact, I even left a comment on the video saying, like, you know, as long as Saxon doesn't fuck up mashed potatoes, there's not going to be a problem from me. But it's not the most different thing ever. To me, that was sounding like retread. And I think they haven't really changed it up since, say, Into the Labyrinth. However, the rest of the album, I think I was wrong about, because the rest of it was, to me, changing things up. Like, most notably, you have stuff like they played rock and roll, which I know you probably love because it was a tribute to Motorhead and Lemmy and stuff like that. And I got it was a better tribute than Murder One by Metallica. It sounded more true to Lemmy and Motorhead's music. And to me, it was like the ultimate band to do that tribute. Because remember, at the beginning of this episode, Motorhead pretty much helped Saxon take off in the beginning. And this was like their tribute back to Motorhead.
Yeah, you got it right. And you know what's interesting? Alan, my buddy who I do reviews with, he said it right on that song, the Motorhead song, which is the band they played rock and roll. That's the name of the track. It sounds like it's got the vibe of Motorhead, but it's a Saxon song. So that's why it works. And you have like Lemmy sort of like a little sound bite in the middle of it all. You got the fans cheering, and of course, their famous motto was, we play rock and roll. Motorhead, we play rock and roll. And then you have Predator, the death metal vocals. Enter death metal vocals. What was your opinion on that, Brody?
Oh, dude, that blew me out of the water. I was like, at first I'm like, okay, this album is getting better and better and better. I'm really liking this. You get to Predator. And that's when I said, okay, I judged wrongly. They are changing up a little bit.
That's it.
That's all they needed to do was one song like that to gain my interest again. They basically did kind of like a slow groove metal type of song.
Yeah.
But during the second verse onwards, you have trading vocals between Biff and death metal vocals, basically. And it's like, whoa, what the hell was that?
It's Johan Hegg from Amon Amarth.
Or as Jimmy says, Amon Amarth.
Amon. I think of King Diamond, right? Amon Amarth, the death metal vocals by Johan Hegg, which he does a great job. I'm not a big death metal fan, but I like it when you change it to clean with the harsh. It gives it a nice little sort of twist, let's say.
Yeah, and I know it's mostly about hunting on weak animals and stuff like that, but I almost kind of interpret the song as like the movie Predator, and those vocals kind of are like the monster in that movie. You know what I'm saying? I think that is the coolest song on the album. They changed stuff up. My only gripe with it is I kind of almost wish Biff did the death metal vocals, because he kind of can. If you listen to live performances of Crusader,
sure.
He can, who dares? He could have just done that voice and it would have been awesome.
Run for your life. There's no escape from the predator.
Okay, so just a little background. We probably interviewed the band maybe 3 times, Biff, and we talked to Nigel many times. And in 2011, I think it was 2011, they came to Montreal, Canada. That's where we're at. And they were sort of trying to reinvent themselves, because they've been very popular in Europe for so many years, especially in the 90s and the millennial, right? But they really weren't kind of making it in North America. There wasn't a lot of touring happening, right? So they came to Canada, Montreal, Canada, and the US, of course, in 2011 on the Call to Arms tour. And they were playing like 100, 200 seater here, but they were adamant. They go, we are going to just break this market once again. They broke it in the 80s, right? But they were trying to reinvent themselves and take over North America. And I'm going to tell you, tour after tour after tour, it's been, I think, 3 tours that they've come to North America. The fans it's getting bigger. They're playing bigger areas and arenas. Not arenas, but bigger clubs. Now you're talking about between 500 to 1,000 people are going to see their shows. I was at their last show. It was about, I'd say 3-4 months ago. Electrifying, insane. It was probably one of the best shows of the year.
another quick thing, speaking of Call to Arms, there's kind of a similarity between that and Thunderbolt, where you have a song that has two different versions of it on the album, where you have one with symphonic, one without. The song we talked about earlier, Nosferatu, which is about a vampire. The whole song's slow and epic. I think the version without the symphonics is terrible. Like, boring, completely bland. Same with Call to Arms. I think the symphonic versions of both those songs is infinitely better, and it really is what makes the song feel epic and special.
That's good. I agree with you on that too. I like The Secret of Flight, which is the second track. Sort of the history of aviation, right? As he's going through war, and just the history of, avionics, we'll call it. I think it's great. It's just a nice meat and potato Saxon song, and very catchy and melodic. And I just think it's a perfect second track. And another cool song is Son of Odin. Thor.
I like that one too. Yeah, it's kind of like the ballad on the album in a way.
Yeah, it's a nice groove. It's a nice slow groove to that.
Another one I really liked also was Sniper.
Yeah, me too.
I noticed on this album they're doing almost not necessarily speed metal songs. There's a couple of those on there, like Speed Merchants, which rules, or they played rock and roll a little bit, but a lot of them are kind of groovier songs, like Sniper. I
found like Wizard's Tale and Roadie's song, I really kind of, it's kind of cheesy, I would say.
Well, here's the thing. You know what? A lot of metal bands, especially Saxon nowadays, the lyrics aren't that good. Let's be honest. I mean, it fire the bullet and the sword and the steel and the fire. It's like, it gets really generic and cheesy after a while, but they weren't that well worded back in the day. To me, all that matters when it comes to a song's lyrics, if it's going to be good or bad, is if I don't really notice it, but if I notice like a word is really out of place and sounds bizarre, or they try to put emphasis on a word and it doesn't sound right, like they do in A Wizard's Tale, then I get pissed off. In the chorus of this, something about fantastic, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. To me, it's a little too cheesy. You have Merlin the Magician, or whoever it is, their wizard, and Camelot Days, and then Roadie's song, which I get why they did it, because they always had sort of on the road type tracks, right? So now they want to, pay a tribute, or a pat on the back to all the roadies out there, and I get it why they did it. Just, to me, it's just very cheesy. Like, I would never write a song like that. I find lyrics are very important.
I know you're probably going to disagree with this. I thought this album was overall, I liked it better than Battering Ram.
Really? Yeah, I'm the opposite. I like Battering Ram a little more. I found that the songs were a lot better done, but it's still a great. It just doesn't mean it takes away. If I put Battering Ram at 9 out of 10, I would put this probably at 8.5 out of 10. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not a bad album. 85% is like an A-, right? Or A, right? So it's still a strong Saxon album. What I would change if I was them, and again, I love the band. I think Andy Schneep, they need to change producers.
Yes.
He's too, it's got that sort of digitalized sound, right? It's very, I don't know if compression is the word, but I would say it's got this Andy Schneep sound that's just so overdone. They need to change it up with producers. I know why they use him, because they want to go with what works, but I think they need to change it up.
I agree. That was one of my biggest gripes with this album. I mean, this one sounds very digitalized, but I kind of almost prefer it because it sounds a little bit rawer on this album than it was on Battering Ram, where the whole thing was kind of like, it sounded like a nuclear blast production, where everything kind of sounds like a chunky, bassy type of thing, which I don't really like that sound as much.
I sat next to Nigel at the Hall of Heavy Metal History last week, just by chance. We were sitting next to each other. It was like a dinner table, right? And we're just talking the whole night, and great guy, and he's like 67 years old. You can't even think, I'm not even 67. I mean, I get tired just walking up the stairs. This guy's he's like a beast on the drums, like a friggin' beast. It was a great time I had. Met Biff. The guy's smart as hell, and he's dedicated, and he loves, you don't do this. You do it for the money, of course, but there's a certain love for music and writing songs. They've been consistent for the past, I don't know how long, 30 years. Cranking out an album 1 to 2 years. Every 1 to 2 years, there's a new album coming out. Yeah.
You know what, though? Even if they don't change it up and they just keep making mashed potatoes, that's fine. It really is. I mean, Motorhead did that for years, and Motorhead's one of my favorite bands. So thank you guys for joining us for this lengthy episode on Saxon. very, very lengthy, but it was worth it because they have such a lengthy discography. And thank you for coming on here, Jimmy, and check out the Metal Voice. You'll get fantastic interviews, album reviews, and all sorts of stuff. You guys also have been doing like documentary style stuff with bands like Riot and whatnot. You guys are really changing the game. You even have the attention of people like the Rageaholic and whatnot. Everyone watches the Metal Voice. That is cool. That means if you do not subscribe to the Metal Voice,
then you're an idiot.
Because you are not cool. Go subscribe to them right now. In fact, I will say even this: unsubscribe from this channel and go subscribe to that one.
Don't go that far.
We want to thank the fans for staying with us, and new fans for coming along, join us on the journey, and all the media